Hello and welcome to my video and my channel. Yes! Thank you, Commodore. Thank you for that great intro. I'm here to talk about autism from the perspective of being autistic. Welcome. Today might be a bit of a big video. I have a lot of notes. I could run faster than I expect, but if you don't have time for a big chunk of a video, then maybe come back to it later. Today we're going to talk about learning disabilities and the connection to autism. Is it possible to be autistic and not have learning disabilities? It's possible. It is a spectrum, but there is quite a bit of a connection. Excuse me, sir. He's laying on my book. Around 60 to 70% of people on the spectrum have one or more learning disabilities. Something that people tend to get confused on a lot is that autism itself is not a learning disability. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. And for some reason, people tend to get that mixed up a lot. And I think even I did before I knew much about autism. It was kind of like I thought it was one and the same, and it's not. It'll affect how info is processed, which can affect learning, but it isn't one itself. So the way our brains process things and how it takes things in, it's like how it's wired, and our brains are different, but that doesn't make it a learning disability itself. We can have learning disabilities with it, but it is not itself described as a learning disability. So I'm going to go through different learning disabilities. Obviously, there's quite a bit of learning disabilities, but these are the ones that are mainly connected, or at least you see connections of it with autism. So first we're going to talk about dyslexia. And dyslexia is more than just the mixing of letters, which I myself was wrong for years. I always thought that in those sitcom shows, if they happen to talk about it, I want to think there was an episode of The Cosby Show, and I could be wrong, but I think there was, where they talked about how he switched letters around. But that is not inherently what dyslexia is. Can you do that? Absolutely. But a lot of us that don't dive into what a learning disability is get that confused that that's all there is to dyslexia, and it's not. You'll have difficulty with sounds and words. You'll also understand what is read, but it can also cause issues with speed and vocabulary. So if you're somebody that just absolutely struggles with reading, I don't have my individual learning disabilities listed and diagnosed. I went through the process of trying to get them diagnosed in college, and I had a psychiatrist that just was not very helpful. He was just like, you got a little bit of everything. And I was like, cool, could you maybe list what these things are? But I'm absolutely positive that I am dyslexic, because I personally struggle with reading as a whole. If it goes on for too long, I cannot process what I am reading. I will read things constantly, and it does not soak in my brain like a sponge. Because I tend to be both a visual and hands-on learner. So when it comes to reading, because I don't have a visual or an audio or a hands-on kind of thing, I cannot retain books, and it makes me sad, because I would love to be one of these heavy-duty readers that can be in book clubs and read so much, and I can't. I have to wait till that book comes out on in a movie, and then anybody that I know who's read the books are like, this is terrible compared to the book, and I'm just like, well, I liked the movie, so I and it would always be super awkward. For instance, we're gonna first of all mention the fact that this author is an absolute horrible person and we do not support her. However, you know, growing up in the era of Harry Potter, everybody read the books. I was terrified too. I couldn't. They were like really thick, and I was like, I know I'm not gonna be able to read this, and people are gonna think like, what is wrong with her, right? So I never read the books, and then the movies came out, and I absolutely adored the movies. I loved them so much. And I would hear that a lot, where it was like, well, they leave a lot of things out in the movie, and the books are better than the movies. And I'm just like, I like the movies. And I dealt with that a lot growing up. So I am absolutely positive that I am dyslexic, because I struggle with it a lot, even to this day. So next we're going to talk about dyscalculia. And that is the disability with math. Difficulty with memorization and organization of numbers, signs, and facts. Also, difficulty reading analog clocks. So, I absolutely have this disability as well. I struggled with math time and time again. It was the only subject I failed at in school, and it was so upsetting. And again, every time I tried college 3 times, and the main reason why I couldn't get past it was because I had to pass a math class to get a degree, and I couldn't. No matter how passionate I am about, like, currently I tried to go back as an adult to get a degree in teaching, and this is just even for like early learning. Like, I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. I still had to do a math class, and I couldn't do it. And so I had to stop. I couldn't do it. I was so stressed out that my therapist was like, please, you ended up getting enough classes to earn more money. I think it's time to realize that, like, you're at where you should be and you're happy with it. You do not need a degree. You're good at what you do. It's fine. And that was just so upsetting for me, when the fact that it's like one main subject that is absolutely required no matter what, even if you use it or don't, and I couldn't do it. And after I learned about dyscalculia, it was like, oh my God, absolutely, I have that. That is why I struggled so much in school. And it makes sense, like, because I also have trouble with analog clocks, like it says. If it is not a digital clock that just tells me the numbers, I can get so confused trying to read a regular clock. Like, and I always thought that was weird because nobody struggled with that. It was just me. I didn't know anybody that struggled with it. And when I saw this combined with the whole math situation, I was like, wow, okay, yes, that's it. And it makes everything make sense. Next, we're going to talk about I am going to probably mispronounce everything in this video, and I absolutely apologize for that. The next thing we're going to talk about is dysgraphia, and that's with writing, both physical and mental trouble with neatness and consistency, struggles with copying, spelling problems, and organization coherence. So I know it gets to be a bit much that I'm going to be like, I pretty much have every one of these things, but this is another thing that I absolutely have. So for me personally, I cannot write with my hand the appropriate way. You're supposed to hold it like this, right? With 2 fingers and then 1 behind it. I do not do that. I do it with 3 fingers on top and 1 on the bottom, which I had never seen a single person write like me. It was the only way that I have been able to write. I tried to do this now as an adult, and it's just not comfortable. It is not okay for me to write like that. And I've never known anybody to hold it like me until, like, I think probably within the last couple months, I was watching an old Call Me Chris video, and she said that she holds a pen like this, and I about cried, and I was like screaming with joy. Oh my God, she holds a pen exactly like me. And I love you, Call Me Chris. Shout out. I cannot hold a pencil right. That is how I hold it. My handwriting is, as I can best describe it, looks like a 12-year-old boy's handwriting. Everybody else has that's, is a female or feminine forward, writes in these beautiful, just like bubble handwriting, and it's gorgeous. And I never had that, and it always really upset me. If you need a like example, look at this awful like chicken scratch. It's horrible. I hate it. Next, we are going to talk about dyspraxia. Dyspraxia. I'm going to struggle. I'm sorry. And this is problems with motor skills. Hard eye coordinations, like holding a pencil or buttoning a shirt. So basically issues with motor skills. And it is known as well that people with this disorder are overly clumsy, like people that you think of that can't like walk straight or is constantly running into things. That also tends to be categorized in this disorder as well. I think it's possible that I have this. For instance, I could never learn how to ride a bike. I still can't. I cannot skate. I cannot skateboard. I cannot swim. Anything that involves a like self-balance in the brain and motor skills, I cannot do. So like I also couldn't do a lot of sports because like it just like my brain would not connect, and it was really hard for me. So I think it could be very possible that I have this as well. Auditory processing disorder is the ability to I'm so sorry, like brain fart. Having trouble with like correctly hearing things and how you read, write, and spell. So like I have a lot of trouble with auditory as well. So you could be literally talking right in front of me and it's like you'll get that blank stare and I'm like, yeah, and but nothing sinks in. And it's not that I'm not listening, it's that I'm struggling with my environment. So if I was with you at a concert and it's super loud, or at a restaurant, or at like a bar, and you're not right next to me and you're talking to me, I will not hear any of it. And it makes me incredibly frustrated to the point that I can have a meltdown because it's so hard to hear anything that I get really unnerved. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I'm at a concert where it's a band I like I came out of the way to go to, I can do that. That's fine. I will not get stressed out about it. But like if I'm put in a situation where it's really loud, and then I can't hear, it's very stressful for me. But also it's just the fact that too, a lot of times as the auditory processing issues are, where if you're autistic, we are struggling with a lot of things at once that other people do not struggle with. So if we're in a conversation, right, I'm trying to listen very intently, but I'm also trying to keep the appropriate amount of eye contact and like trying to do it where I have to look away so you don't notice that I'm struggling. And then I'm like, oh my God, did they notice that I'm having to look away a lot? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, do they think that I'm really not listening? Am I saying the correct things back? And with all of that, it makes listening become more trouble, and like things will be heard and then other things weren't. And then we are gonna finish this off with visual processing disorder. And that is skipping of words, lines, misunderstanding the depth of distance, and hand-eye coordination. So I'm trying to think of a good example for this one. I guess this would be because this kind of goes along with the dyslexia a little bit as well, where you'll be reading a paragraph, but you can't stay in the correct place, because I have trouble with that as well. I'm very much, if I'm reading, I need to have my finger right there to trace the line, or I lose track of what I was reading because I'll accidentally jump lines. And this could be for people that have issues with, like, if you're driving and you have bad spatial distance, right? Or like anything too, or if you don't know how close is too close, if you're going to talk to somebody and you're like so close that it freaks them out, or if you're so far and because that's what's comfortable for you, and the other person's like, why are you so far away? So it kind of goes along with that, just not understanding the distance that is appropriate for a certain setting or a certain example. So that's everything about learning disabilities that I have. I could have left some stuff out, and I apologize if I did. These are the main things that I see that pop up in my autism groups, and the correlations of them all, and ones that I personally am positive that I personally struggle with. I'm sorry if I left out any that happens to be your own and I didn't talk about it. Let me know if any of these resonate with you. If you feel like any of these seem like they're hitting home, like they did for me, I learned about these a lot in my autism groups that I'm in. What I would definitely suggest for anybody, if I ever talk about a topic or anything and you're like, I've never heard of that, or I didn't know about this, I very much encourage you to do some research, because it's very possible that the reason why it's resonating is that you do indeed have them, and you just didn't have a doctor or teacher or adult in your life to point that out to you. Because that's kind of one of the things for me. Like, whenever I had struggles with school, I'd never had any teacher that I know of point out any disorders that I had. Like, the idea of having autism was my mom's noticing it and my dad, not anybody else, which is upsetting. You know, again, this is the 90s when I grew up, so a lot of that was overlooked and not seen because the results of women and men and autism just it wasn't there. But it kind of upsets me a little bit to know that none of my teachers recognized that I struggled with all this. They just thought I was, I don't know, that I was quiet, that I didn't really get into the alternative lifestyle until about high school. And so then when I had the struggles, that's probably when the schooling was the most apparent, and the struggles were there to the point that I didn't know what to do. And all the teachers would look at me and be like, well, she just doesn't want to try, she's rebelling. And that wasn't the case at all. I was truly struggling, so much that I didn't think I had anybody in my corner. And sadly, I didn't really. I had my parents, but they did the best they could, and people weren't listening to them. So if anything ever seems like, oh, I feel like I might have that, please research it. And if you feel like it is, and if you feel like it's really important to have a valid diagnosis, once you have everything, when you research everything, you have everything in hand that correlates to your own life, and you think you have to have a diagnosis, then you can go into the doctor with a list of things to talk about. But again, it is not required for you to have a diagnosis the autism community as a whole, we will welcome you if you have learning disabilities and you don't discover it till you're older. You know it's you, like me. Like, I didn't have these diagnosed, but I know 100% it's why I struggle. So welcome. Welcome to the community. We will welcome you with open arms. Yeah, so as I go on with my videos, I will have still some more autism topics to talk about, but then I will eventually add in some creepy stuff. As time goes on, I need to do some more research on stuff before I kind of dive into that. I want to be prepared. But yeah, I hope that this video helped you in anything that you needed it for, and hopefully it opens up some topics that you need to look up and learn more about. And I will see you next time. But quick forward, I'm going to have one of my older videos. I'm going to re-upload them because a lot of people were commenting that the music in the background was too loud. And that's another reason why I'm not going to add music in the background anymore, because it was too much of a struggle for people and I feel so bad. And as I'm learning to edit on my own, which it's been very interesting, I'm going to re-upload that old video. So if you're like, I swear I've already seen this video, you probably have, but I'm gonna upload it again without music in the background so that people can either re-listen to it again without that, you know, loudness in the background so they can hear me better, or you'll be like, hey, I don't remember this video at all, and maybe you'll watch it. Well, next time I'll see you, and have a great day.